So, I just thought I'd turn the camera on and start talking and see if something like content was produced. I can't believe it's not content. Um, I recently have noticed gender theists crowing about the siblings of Wachowski, as I refer to them, uh, saying that The Matrix was all about transness. And to me, that makes a lot of sense because The Matrix didn't make any sense. And it seemed kind of appealing in the beginning, but it got less and less coherent over time. Um, it was stolen from a black woman. Yeah, and it also explains why they like Neo makes friends with the robots in the end, and I knew so many leftists and Marxists who were like, no, no, it's a Marxism thing, it's a Marxism thing. Pretty much the only thing you had to go on to say that was that it was the red pill. But other than that, it was about, clearly not about a Marxist interpretation of class. Yeah. And when when he finally makes friends with the robots, it's kind of like, what did they mean by that? And it's like, now you know what they mean by that. They're not Marxists. They want you to be a robot. Yeah, they're fucking transhumanist, like psychopaths. So that was interesting. I've started reading Capital. I think I said that a while ago, and it's because I've been reading it very slowly. It's actually not as incomprehensible to me at the moment. The first chapter was pretty difficult, just to get into the way that he sort of speaks, I guess. But, it's nothing like reading a postmodernist. Like he's actually trying to say something, even if it is like complex and technical. Yeah, he's not just like dancing through a garden of verbs or whatever. Yeah, because I want to be able to, I guess, speak with more authority on Marxism. This extent of my study is sort of like other people writing about Marx and that type of thing. So I can explain sort of like, simple concepts and those types of things, but yeah, I want to have actually read it and to like have understood it for myself. Like I barely know who Hegel is, or what that even means, so I want to learn that. Yeah, that's going well. Oh, specifically because there's this thing with lifestyle politics and purity politics and wokeness, and identity politics, where almost everyone in the gender critical world, like it's way more politically conservative. Everyone's basically a capitalist. Even the people that say they're socialists, like when they say, why are you a socialist? They'll say things like, oh, I want free healthcare. And it's like, yeah, that's a social democrat policy. That's not, that's free healthcare implies everything else isn't free kind of thing. Like, so what you want reforms to capitalism. And only a person living under McCarthyism would think that simply reforming capitalism was like being a Marxist or a socialist. Yeah, I think they're all very not Marxist or socialist, predominantly, at least the American ones, I guess, or the like North American ones. The British ones, and Jane Clare Jones actually mentioned this, because I was like, it's the class consciousness thing. I'll have to find the clip of her saying it. But yeah, she mentioned that, even though I haven't heard her really articulate things that I would see as Marxist either. No one's as good a Marxist as me. No one's as good. So I want to be able to, speak with more confidence on those issues, because with identity politics, so yeah, they're all pro-capitalist, but they're all anti-identity politics. And identity politics is the politics of capitalism, is the politics of like individualized neoliberal subjects. That's what produces identity politics. And identity politics is where you get like purity politics from, like, because if it's all about what I do and my individual little choices, then that's what you have to do. You have to be incessantly cleaning yourself to make yourself perfect, and then incessantly pecking at anybody else that you see like not doing the right thing, because that's how you see politics working. It's this complete like inversion, liberal inversion of the idea of the personal is political. So the way that is supposed to work is the personal problems you think you're having, like, oh, I'm no good with money, or Lisa needs braces, for example, actually turn out to be, it's not just your individual personal like condition, it's a collective condition of, you know, hundreds of thousands or millions of people, and it's called poverty. And so like the personal is political, and so like, yeah, your individual struggle, you're not alone, is essentially what the personal is political is supposed to mean. But then you get these people who invert it completely and go like, the personal is political, so the personal little things that you do ramify up to be like massive things. So essentially like everything is your fault because you've like butterfly affected like the universe into existence through the power of your mind, which is like, yeah, like a lot of times they're religious, either in traditional ways or in like pagan-y neo ways. And yeah, essentially they think like the power of prayer, like influences, the universe. So, the only way to get around that, like, sometimes you'll see like these discussions where class gets brought up, but it gets fucking interpreted liberally because they have no Marxist like understanding of how capitalism is working. So when class gets brought up, it gets dealt with as an identity issue. So you get them literally saying shit like, oh, well, I was so poor and they don't know how poor I was and they think they care about class, but I'm poorer than them. And it's like, you're doing the fucking identity politics thing again, but you're just like applying it to class. And yeah, referring to things like classism. No one gives a like. Just get rid of classes. Just get rid of like it's that whole Stokely Carmichael, I think, said something to the effect of like, I don't care what a white man thinks about me in his head. I care about whether or not he has the social power to like put those crazy ideas into effect. That's what racism is. Like you can think whatever you want, and yeah, that means that's like the whole. You know, you don't have to go around policing everybody because you focus on the big structures in society, or like, yeah, the root causes, essentially, like the arrangements from which the social attitudes spring.
The 60s and 70s, gearing towards academia in the US for radicals, you grew the other side. What do you do when you've got these radical ideas? You maybe even had, you know, a Marxist professor or two, and you got all these ideas and you see movements happening in different parts of the world. You want to be part of it, but you also want a job because you just spent a lot of time in school. In the US, a lot of what happens is radicals get a job in a nonprofit. And that because it's close to doing what we know is necessary. It's organizing, right? It's organizing. You're in a city often, or you're working with people that need some help of some sort. But there's large parameters put around what you need to do. So, because someone's funding it, and there's parameters about what can be said and what campaigns can be gotten into. So, for instance, now we have radicals very involved in organizations that are trying to stop the violence. Stop the violence meaning not the violence going on in Afghanistan, but stop the violence that's happening in the streets, the violence that happens among the working class. So they say stop the violence. And then what are the programs? I can agree with that. We need to stop that violence. What are the programs that are usually put forward by these nonprofits? Some of them staffed with radicals that are versed in some sort of class analysis. Are they putting forward a class line? Well, what they offer up often is we should teach people how to speak to each other nicer. We should have meetings with people and have kids play chess, because they play chess or they have a place to play basketball, which both are things that I think we should all be able to play chess and play basketball and watch movies and all of those things. I think that's part of life. But the idea is that if you do that, then they'll stop being violent. Why would that stop them from being violent? Why? Because the thing that's being put out by many of these organizations is that the violence is an outgrowth of an inferior moral code. The violence is an outgrowth of bad parenting. There's not a father in the house. The violence is an outgrowth of people being too macho, right? And there's whole theories that are put forward about this to back it up, because now you've got a job in it. You better like make a good argument for it. And it confuses a lot of people. However, a class line about it will tell you that capitalism must have unemployment in order to work. If there was full unemployment under capitalism, then workers could demand whatever wage they wanted without even going on strike. Because the boss couldn't say, "You're fired, I'm going to replace you." There's nobody to replace you. It's full employment. So so unemployment is necessary to keep wages low. Wall Street Journal, all those financial newspapers will start worrying out loud when unemployment starts going down low. So what happens when you're unemployed? Most likely unemployed people want to eat too. So they're going to figure out a way to eat. And that means, in the United States, that means illegal business. And as we know, all business regulates itself. How does it regulate itself? All business regulates itself through violence. If it's legal business, it regulates itself through violence. That violent force is called the police. You can't walk out of a grocery store pushing a cart of groceries and not paying, because you're going to be met with that violent force. Now, maybe that violent force will meet you and they won't beat you down, depending on what you look like, what their mood is, what they ate for breakfast. You may not get roughed up. But at the very least, even if they kiss you on the forehead, they're either taking you to jail, they're going to take you to jail, but they're definitely bringing those groceries back to the store. So that's the violent force that's needed for businesses to exist, right? That's the violent force that's necessary. Now, illegal business, they don't have it so easy. How do they regulate themselves? They do it themselves, right? Because they can't go to court and say, "Your Honor, I bought a whole key of cocaine from him, and clearly it was mixed with 85% baking soda. I demand restitution." You can't do that. You can't go to the zoning commission and say, "We got to change these permits because this place should be zoned just for 2 dope dealers on this corner, and clearly 5 is too many, and I'd like to see what I can do about that." It's regulated through violence. It's regulated through violence, and whatever we do to survive creates culture. If you have a fishing village, there's going to be a bunch of fishing songs. Right? However, nonprofits and cultural pundits will tell you that maybe if you went to a fishing village and made songs about planting seeds, that maybe it would change from a fishing village to an agricultural community. But no, fishing villages create fishing songs, not the other way around. So a culture is developed out of what we do to survive. And you know what? Revolutionaries know this. It's just not in fashion to say it. And it's terrible because it's a really easy thing to talk about.
Yeah, so, but if you don't have any Marxist, like clear understanding of what's happening with capitalism, then you can't do that. And like a thing that I wanted to bring up was people often call the Nazis the first postmodern political party because up until that point, everybody had organized around class. Like even the conservative, yeah, so you'd have like a business party, you'd have a farmers party, you'd have parties organized around economic blocks, and then you'd have a labor party. And they would represent the economic interests of labor. And it was the Nazis who came along and sort of did this, like, we're neither left nor right. Like, that's, yeah, a really common, it's like the non-binary of political opinions, where, yeah, they think they're saying something profound, but they're not. So, yeah, like, we're neither left nor right. Yeah, we're trying to organize people not around economic identities or economic positions. We're trying to organize people around like an identity, a Germanness. So basically, you can't reject identity politics on the one hand and also reject a class analysis on the other hand. Or say it doesn't matter which class, it's like open to interpretation. Actually, I kind of like iPods. Like, yeah, and I'm sure plumbing was great when that was first invented, and like, it's just the most like, again, it's fucking identity politics. It's purity politics. Oh, you're not pure enough to have that opinion because you've got an iPad. So, like, we need an actual, like, in the same way the genderists try to make sex about like personal affinity and presentation, they do the same thing with class. The capitalist ideology does the same thing with class, where class is a personal thing. Like some people are just individually dumb and stupid and have bad fashion and you know, all those other things, and they choose to end up down there and other people choose to end up there. So they are actually naturalizing the power relations by just pretending it's a spectrum and anybody who sees a hierarchy just wants to get something for free. Yeah, so I don't know. I guess maybe that's the end. I did make some content. Look at us. Success. Yeah. All right. See ya.